Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another exciting episode of the ALATT podcast, brought to you by the Kabod Group. So, here we share insights on African language technologies and tools. Stay tuned as we dive into today's discussion. I am your host, Rebecca Agri, the language officer for Kabod Language Services. So, today we have here a very special guest joining us, NDUKU Musyimi-Mulumba, who is a strong advocate for the human rights of Mme Ubuntu, which I think refers to the African people globally, to include descendants of enslaved Africans. NDUKU, you are welcome.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. It's good to be here, and thank you for inviting me. Yes, as Rebecca said, I am Mme Ubuntu, who is working towards the liberation of Mme Ubuntu in every way. Our culture, getting back control of our economy, and getting back control of defining who we are and making decisions for ourselves, which we know in KiUbuntu is kujichagulia. Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Oh, thank you. I should be welcoming you in KiUbuntu.
I know.
Karibu.
Karibu ndio, vizuri sana. Very good.
Wow. So it's Karibu, right?
Yes.
Karibu NDUKU.
Asante.
So we are going to dive right into the conversation. So NDUKU, tell me, what's the story behind your organization? So for our listeners, NDUKU has an organization called the Mbôngi Ya Ubuntu. So if she could tell us what exactly is the story behind the organization and what's the mission behind promoting this language you call KiUbuntu.
Yes, thank you. So a few years ago, I started learning more about our history. I was one of those Africans who thinks everything is okay. We just need to work hard to be successful. Oh, look at the United States. They're doing such a wonderful job helping us all over the world. Oh, look at these Western entities. They're helping us. How nice of them. Until I came to the United States and started living amongst them, and I could hear how they spoke about us, and I could see how they're treating us in the United States. And I also started with interacting with our brothers and sisters here, descendants of enslaved Mme Ubuntu who were kidnapped from our motherland. I started learning more about the history and the deeper structure of the United States government and Western entities in general, where they have intentionally designed structures that are supposed to subjugate us. So fast forward, last year in December, earlier in the year, we had started Kumbukeni. I had reached out to a couple of brothers and we said, we need a media outlet that is of Mme Ubuntu, where we are telling our own narrative. But towards the end of the year, myself and I reached out to a few brothers and sisters and I said, we need an organization that is going to advocate and to fight for the things and to do the building of the things that we're talking about. For example, getting back our culture, creating financial liberation and all those things. So without an entity, we really don't have a way to actually do the actions of what we talk about. So that's how Mbôngi Ya Ubuntu was started.
Wow. I mean, that's great. That's a great initiative. So now KiUbuntu, I mean, coming from a lay person's point of view, you think that it's probably distinct from the Kiswahili language. So what would you say are the differences between the language, if there's any?
Okay. So KiUbuntu is Kiswahili. I say KiUbuntu and then I put in quotes every time I post, erroneously known as Kiswahili, which means in KiUbuntu, when you say ki, and in a lot of African, Nsi Ya Ubuntu. Nsi Ya Ubuntu is the new way we are referring to Africa, because Africa was a name given by a colonialist. So we are choosing to name ourselves. And Nsi is a Bakongo word that means land. Right? In KiUbuntu, it's nchi. And then ya is a KiUbuntu word that means of. And then Ubuntu is the culture of Ubuntu. So Nsi Ya Ubuntu is the land of Ubuntu, which is what we are referring to Africa as now. But KiUbuntu is Kiswahili, what you all know as Kiswahili. Why are we calling it KiUbuntu and not Kiswahili? When you have that ki, and then the following word, for example, Kikamba, I am an Akamba. That's a nation in Nsi Ya Ubuntu of the Akamba people. If you say Kitwi, right, that's Twi language. So you're basically saying the language of these people. So to say Kiswahili is to say the language of the Swahili people. The Swahili people are descendants of Arabs. KiUbuntu existed at least a century before the Arabs arrived in the eastern side of Mbôngi Ya Ubuntu. So there's no way to say that this language, and it is a language that is built of multiple Bantu languages. We always say the evidence is in the languages. If you look at all the Bantu languages in Mbôngi Ya Ubuntu, Africa, you will see the evidence. And we had that earlier this year. I had a presentation that I made where we showed this evidence. For example, the word Ntu, right? That is common throughout Mbôngi Ya Ubuntu, no matter what the language is. So we are calling it KiUbuntu because it is the language of the people of Ubuntu, which is who we are, all of us. You may call it something different in your culture, but it is still Ubuntu. And therefore, we are choosing moving forward to not call it Kiswahili, because it is not a language of the Swahili people. It is the language of the people of Ubuntu. Swahili people, I'll say, are descendants of Arabs who settled in that, who invaded the eastern side of Mbôngi Ya Ubuntu. They governed and colonized that area, and therefore they were controlling policy and changing the narrative and owning what was there. And therefore part of it was stealing ownership of our language of unity because they saw the power in it. And now we are reclaiming it.
Wow. I mean, I'm I'm mesmerized by this history. I mean, looking at the origins, the historical roots of KiUbuntu, that's so interesting too. So why is it important to preserve and promote this particular language, in your opinion?
I mean, first of all, as you can see, it is our language of unity. We need a language of unity. It would be great if I can go to Nigeria and I see my brothers and we're all talking a common language. One of the reasons why we have conflict in Mbôngi Ya Ubuntu is because people see each other as different due to the different languages. So if we have a common language, we can see each other more as brothers and sisters. That's one of the reasons. Second of all, it is our own language. If we're going to fight towards liberation, we cannot use the colonialists' language. I cannot say I'm fighting for liberation while speaking English. The two don't go together. I have agreed to have my tongue colonized and enslaved, and I'm talking about liberation. No. So we need to have an Mbôngi Ya Ubuntu language of unity. And the one that seems to have hope of bringing us together is KiUbuntu, because it already has many Bantu languages in it. So, and many Bantu nations represented in it. And so now we just need to bring our brothers and sisters from the West to be included in the language, which we are doing. And in fact, have started already currently bringing in some words, brought in a couple of words from Twi, Akan, and Yoruba to replace some of the words that are Arabic in KiUbuntu.
Wow. Can you give an example of that?
Yes. So, for example, in KiUbuntu, we say Rafiki. Rafiki is Arabic, Rafik, right? And therefore, in place of that, we are saying Adamfo, which is friend in Twi. Adamfo. Yes. So we are bringing in Adamfo. For example, seven in Kiswahili is Saba, which in Arabic, those who speak about Saba. Instead of that, we're bringing Asa, which is Igbo. Asa, which means seven.
Wow.
So things like that. And then you have something like community, Jamii or Jumuiya, which is Arabic, and we're bringing in a Swati word called Mfakati. So things like that, yes.
Wow, that's so interesting. So apart from these ones you have mentioned, can you walk me through some of the methodologies and approaches your organization is actually using to collect data?
So as you know, those of you who are in the movement, there's so much to do, and the resources are not enough, right? If we had the resources, this data collection would be happening, like by now would have finished, but that's part of the challenge. And therefore, we are collecting as we go. And part of it, how we are doing it is through interacting with fellow Wana Ubuntu. So, for example, you and I, Rebecca, if I'm talking to you and I'll ask you, so how do you say, I find a word in KiUbuntu that is Arabic and I'm looking to change it. And I know I'm intentionally bringing in words from Western Mbôngi Ya Ubuntu West. So I'll reach out to a brother or sister in the West and ask, how do you say this in Twi? How do you say this in Yoruba? How do you say this in such and such language? And then we'll bring that language in. That word.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the approach you're using now.
Right now, it's through direct interaction. We are also looking to reach out to a couple of people. I know Theophile Obenga has done some research, and we have Kwesi. He's a Ghanaian who moved to South Africa years ago. He's done research as well. We're looking to join them, or at least work with them to expand on what they've already done. Yes.
Okay. So apart from this direct interaction, what role do you think technology can play when it comes to preserving and revitalizing KiUbuntu?
So let me start by saying I have at least 7 years of experience as a translator. Therefore, living between African Mme Ya Ubuntu languages and Western languages, right? And seeing what the West technology does as far as translating what our languages mean. So it is important that we are the ones writing this narrative. We are the ones producing this information, the translations and everything, and not the Wazungu and the foreigners, because they don't understand our culture. If you go to Google right now and enter, and I know a lot of you have encountered this, you enter some words you want to translate in your language, or you translate from, you see the translation is very wrong, right? Because
Yes, very, very.
Exactly. It doesn't cater for cultural context, which is very important in languages of Mme Ya Ubuntu. So we have to be the ones now who are creating the databases. We cannot let them continue, or at least continue using theirs. We have to create our own if we're going to preserve our languages. Also, in this work, we cannot involve them. I know a lot of our brothers and sisters are working with them because of that lack of funding. And I'm talking about the colonialists, the imperialists. They currently, because they have the upper hand on finance, they're offering, and I'm doing it in quotes, you cannot see me, this is not a video, aid. Aid is not aiding Africa in any way. It's not aiding us in any way. So it's important that we own our own infrastructure, our own databases, our own programs, so that we can preserve them.
Wow. That's great. So now I know you have mentioned some of the steps that we need to take to ensure the preservation of KiUbuntu, but I mean, for wider adoption, are there any other steps that you think can equally be incorporated?
So we are teaching KiUbuntu. I do lessons. I do live lessons. I haven't yet. We finished our first course. We have a year-long program, and it's made up of 4 courses. So we finished our first course in the spring, and we are going to be starting our second course, which is the beginner's course soon. But also we are recording lessons that you can order and learn at your own pace, that will be available on our website, and some of the links that I shared with you. So that's part of spreading this. We also have I forgot to share this with you. I should say this. We also have a Kwanzaa KiUbuntu book coming up. So part of why we decided to write a Kwanzaa book in KiUbuntu is because we want to connect our brothers and sisters abroad with our brothers and sisters on the continent as far as the culture, so that we can get to know each other better and see the similarities in us. But also, we don't want to do it in, again, colonial languages. We want to use our own language to send that message, and to encourage people to start reading in our own languages and to start writing. The other thing also, we are now a publishing and distribution company. In fact, we are currently working on our first book that we are promoting, that is written by Kanyisile, Mama Kanyisile Litchfield Shabalala from South Africa. It is called Bulungisa, Deconstructing Gender in African Spirituality, the Untold Story of African Warrior Women. And yes, so we'll be helping her publish that. That will be part of our mission, helping Wana Ubuntu publish our stories, our narratives in our own languages, and using our own culture without having to apologize for the way the books are written.
Wow. It's a successful project that I can see already. Wow. So now I know that promoting a distinct language like KiUbuntu hasn't been without its challenges. How do you navigate resistance? I'm sure, I mean, you trying to make it a common language. There's lots of resistance or skepticism. So so how do you actually navigate this for those who may not even recognize its distinct identity?
So by talking about it constantly, this helps. Being invited by you and sharing on this platform helps. So every time we have a chance to talk about it, like I said, every time I have a chance to post about it, I always write KiUbuntu in brackets, erroneously known as Kiswahili. And it gets people's attention. We have people coming back and saying, what do you mean erroneously known as Kiswahili, right? But also those people who are and you're right, a lot of our brothers and sisters are fighting this idea of, oh, why are you choosing this as the language of unity? What about Yoruba? What about Hausa?
Yes.
I'm going to lose my culture. So I am here to say that I am a Mme Ubuntu who grew up speaking multiple languages and KiUbuntu from when I was a child, and it never took away from my language. I always speak in my language so that I can prove that. Nita wanduku numete Kenya ni mukamba nano nine na kikamba na nda cholo. So that's me speaking Kikamba, and I've never forgotten it. Just because I speak Ubuntu does not mean that I have to lose my mother tongue. So that's one of the things. That's one of the fears that, or the excuses that our brothers and sisters give. Oh, if I start speaking Ubuntu, I'm going to lose my mother tongue. And I ask them, you never said that when you were learning French or English.
Exactly.
You never said that when you never said that when you were trying to be more French than the Frenchman. You willingly do it, and you speak French proudly, calling it. You have them calling these languages African country languages. You know, you have people fighting to call Arabic an African language. Arabic is not an African language. It is commonly spoken now in Africa, but it is most definitely a colonial language. So just continuing to tell the true narrative and countering the false narratives is where the work is. It's not easy, but it has to be done, and consistently so.
Yes, it indeed has to be done. So now, given your background in confronting systemic racism from your profile, I mean, and advocating for African people globally, how does promoting African languages like Ubuntu tie into the larger struggle for equity and representation?
Well, I remember either earlier this year or last year, I was in a LinkedIn, what do they call them? Audio rooms. There's a Nigerian brother who runs an audio room on LinkedIn.
Okay.
And in the room, there was a woman who came in, someone from the United States, a woman. She's not a Mme Ubuntu. She wasn't white, but she was very much white facing. She was defending white supremacy. Not directly, but I'll explain the story so that you can understand. Okay. And while we had all, again, I said, this is a space that a Nigerian brother runs, right? And this is the space where Mme Ubuntu are coming. So we are coming in there with our accents. You can hear the beautiful Nigerian accent, the beautiful Eastern my accent that has never changed, despite the fact that I've been here more than 20 years. I have never changed my accent, really. So this woman comes off mic and says, oh, I am an expert in training you, teaching you how to change the way you speak so that you can speak more American.
Wow.
Yes, she literally. And so I come off mic and I say, listen, what you just said is very harmful. You are making us feel ashamed of the way we speak and devaluing the way we speak and telling us that the way we speak will not. She was saying essentially, because it was a group of business people, she was saying we will not succeed in business if we continue speaking the way we speak, and therefore we need to learn how to speak like Western people. Yes. So these are the challenges, and that's where you see racism creeping in a very subtle way. It seems like they are helping you build business, but they are telling you they don't value your accent. They don't value the way you speak, and in order for them to value you, to do business with you, you need to speak like them and abandon the way you speak. So I'm reaching out to my brothers and sisters and saying, do not abandon the way you speak. Come in. In fact, if you have a Nigerian accent, double down and make it even stronger. Let them do the work of understanding what we are saying. It's always said, if they can say the name, for example, what are these Irish names that you have, like complex Irish names or Russian names, and they can say, they never tell the Russian to change their name, but they are having a hard time pronouncing names of Mme Ubuntu. So this is how you see it. Also, the other challenge we would face is because, for example, in the publishing field, publishing in our languages, in the Ubuntu languages, it's not popular, right? They want to publish English books. They want to publish French books. They want to publish all kinds of colonial languages. And therefore, it's up to us to fight. This is part of the racism, to push and stand for ourselves, and also to purchase these books when they are published. Yeah, there are many, many examples of racism I can give you here. I have, for example, like in the former place I was working for the federal government, the United States federal government.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember one time at the office, I was walking in the hallway, and one of my fellow team members came up to me, a white male. Oh, I'm so surprised how well you speak English. I said to him, you know, English is the official language in Kenya, right? You know, English is the business language in Kenya. You know, we learn English from when we are children. This is a man who could not put a paragraph together cohesively. Like, I'm literally saying he was a bad writer. And he's coming up to me to tell me he's surprised I speak good English, and I'm speaking better English and writing better English than him. So these are the subtle things that racism exposes. What this man is essentially telling me is, I did not expect an African like you to be so eloquent. That is literally what the man is telling me. The man is telling me, I did not expect an African like you to be smart. Yes, so those are the challenges.
Wow. So derogatory. I mean, we have so many opinions of us. Okay, so as someone who is really involved in the Pan-African movement, what role do you see African languages playing in fostering unity and solidarity among African people across the globe?
So we know the African Union is not currently serving us, right? I would love for it to serve us, but it's not. And I would love to support them. So, for example, the African Union says that they recognize KiUbuntu as one of the official languages. I would like the African Union to say that KiUbuntu is the official language of the African Union. Not one, but the main official language of the African Union. So, as Pan-Africanists, we need to make KiUbuntu the main language that we are speaking during our conferences and provide interpretation for everyone, even fellow Ubuntu who's attending. Let the opening be in KiUbuntu. That we need to start making small steps towards making this language the language that we use in our gatherings when we all come together. Our brothers and our ancestors were able to do it when they all met in the eastern side of Mbôngi Ya Ubuntu. That is how they built the language. So there's no way we should not be able to do it if they did it too. Yeah, it's up to us to continue using it in public forums. I know the Colombian vice president, she's of African descent, and she has been promoting the language and teaching it in that area. So we need to push for it as Pan-Africanists in everything that we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We indeed need to push for it. So, I mean, it's been so lovely chatting with you, having this wonderful discussion. And I'm sure you mentioned some of your products and services already, but are there some that you still like to include now for our listeners who are listening to purchase?
Yes. So we have, and Rebecca will be sharing I feel so weird calling you Rebecca, and I can hear, an Ubuntu accent. I'm like, no. There needs to be an African. There needs to be a one Ubuntu name there. This Rebecca is. Yes. I say Rebecca, I see a white woman.
Oh no, never.
I'm sorry. It's the mindset where I am now, right? I was born and raised as Joan because my family was Catholic, but now I don't use the name anymore. But anyway, we have flashcards currently out of the KiUbuntu alphabet with a accompanying pronunciation video. For those who buy the flashcards during this broadcast, for those who buy the flashcards before July, using the code I gave it to Rebecca, she's going to share it. I believe it's ALATT, ALATT 061824. You will get the audio, the accompanying video for free, which is valued at $10. The flashcards are $25. Unfortunately, we haven't yet priced them to accommodate the incomes of our brothers and sisters on the continent. We hope to do that soon because we understand that there's a disparity there as far as income and capability financially.
Yes.
Yeah. We are wrapping up on our KiUbuntu Kwanzaa book. Like I said, those of you who don't know what Kwanzaa is, you can go to the official Kwanzaa. I'm going to get that website quickly and share it. Oh yeah, official Kwanzaa website.org. That is official KWANZAA website.org to learn more about what Kwanzaa is. Yes. But we have a KiUbuntu book coming out. It's going to be all in KiUbuntu to promote the language, but also to make this this tradition of celebrating Kwanzaa accessible to our people back at home who speak our language already and those who are learning, so that they can learn more about the culture of our brothers and sisters who were taken from our motherland. This hopefully will bring us closer, and this hopefully will promote the use of KiUbuntu. We would love very much today for all 54 Mme Ya Ubuntu African nations to take this book and include it in their curriculum. So yes, that will be one way. That's a product we have. The book, we haven't yet put a price on it, but it's probably going to be, it's a children's, we're calling it an intergenerational book. It's probably going to be for those abroad, not more than $15, but we need to find a price for those back at home. And also we will be providing, like I said, recorded courses of KiUbuntu that you can buy and learn at your own pace. All this information will be on our website, which is currently partially up and under construction still. You can find us at mbongiyaubuntu.org. That is mbongiyaubuntu.org. Yes.
Okay, thank you so much, Nduku. This has been such an insightful discussion. I should be saying thank you in KiUbuntu.
Asante, yes.
Okay, asante sana.
Look at you. You're already learning. Good for you.
I am. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your valuable perspective. I know our listeners have gained a much better understanding of Mbôngi Ya Ubuntu, the mission actually of this organization, and are just as captivated by your work as I am. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the ALATT podcast. So that's all we have for today's episode, but I encourage everyone to check.
I was going to say one more thing, Rebecca, if you allow me.
Okay.
For those who already speak the language and who can read some of the evidence that I was talking about of the history and how the language was formed, you can get the book Historia ya Kiswahili 50 BK hadi 1500 BK. It's written by David P.B. Masamba. David P.B. Masamba is Massamba. It's in all KiUbuntu, so if you don't read the language, you won't be able to understand. But for those who do, you can see the evidence there of how the language was built.
Don't you think we need to have a translation of that for
I know. That's another huge project. We have a few projects going on right now as far as translating English books to KiUbuntu. But yeah, that book is big. That would be another huge project eventually.
Wow, I'm waiting for that. I'm all here when it comes out to promote it. So yes, you'll find all their links in our show notes. So until next time, let's keep celebrating and preserving Africa's rich linguistic heritage. This has been the ALATT podcast, and I've been your host, Rebecca Agri. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.